DreAllDay.com.
Tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. What that is the go-getter energy that moves anyone out there, especially yourself. I mean, I'm talking to you right now, so really we're talking about you, not just anyone, to go make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then here's what we do. We take all this and we put it together. We streamline this. We made it into an entire process. We codified our whole system, wrote a book on the subject. We have an entire framework that you can follow that anyone, even a caveman, can understand. And you're listening to the daily masterclass that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic, the value of delayed gratification. Now, I think you are familiar with the concept of delayed gratification. If you're familiar with the concept of discipline, you're familiar with investment, if you're familiar with long-term success, if you're familiar with the concept of strategy, even if you're not great at executing any of these things, if you're familiar with what they are, then you understand the concept of delayed gratification. I'll give you the definition of it, and then we're going to talk about it even deeper. Definition of delayed gratification is the process that a subject undergoes when the subject resists the temptation of an immediate reward in preference for a later reward. I mean, that's simple enough. You're giving up something that you could get now in preference for something that you can get later. Maybe it'll be more. Maybe it'll be the same. Maybe it'll be less. Maybe we don't know. Maybe you'll end up getting nothing. The concept of delayed gratification is you understanding that not getting everything right now will lead to you getting, theoretically, let's say, ideally and theoretically, you getting something better later on. The reason why you're willing to delay the gratification of another hour of sleep in the morning and get up out of bed instead and drag yourself to the gym is because going to the gym is going to help you be healthier, and then you'll live longer, you'll be in better physical shape, you'll look better, you'll have better cardiovascular fitness, and when you go up a couple flights of stairs you won't be out of breath anymore, and whatever other benefits you get from working out. Now, consult your doctor or physician. They can tell you a little bit more about that. The benefits of delaying the gratification of, for example, if you got X number of dollars in your account right now, you're willing to invest that money into something right now. So now the money is no longer in your account. So the gratification is gone of having the money. But because you made that investment of $1,000 right now or $100,000 right now, in the future, a year from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, that $1,000 might turn into $50,000. That $1,000 might turn into all kinds of things that will benefit your life that maybe you can't even measure in dollars and cents. Because you made the investment of $100,000 now, might turn into $1 million a year from now or 20 years from now, maybe even for your kids or grandkids to enjoy it. You won't even be around to enjoy it, but you're willing to delay the gratification of whatever the positive is now in order to get something later. This whole concept of delayed gratification is an essential element of discipline. Now, every day we open the show talking about the discipline, showing up every single day to do the work. When I talk about the principle of the third day, that entire third day framework, one of the main things is the delayed gratification. And understand that delayed gratification doesn't mean do nothing. It doesn't always mean do nothing now and get something later. Delayed gratification could mean doing something now, but the something that you're doing is not quite so gratifying in itself, but in the future it will be worth it. For example, I don't always feel like today, the day that I'm recording this, I was in the gym and it was leg day. So I was doing a deadlifting exercise. Now I do actually like deadlifting. I wasn't a big fan of leg lifting when I was playing basketball because I was doing so much with my legs. I never really lifted, and I really didn't even understand form properly at that time. The act of doing the deadlift while I'm actually doing it is not always so fun. It can actually be very challenging and very difficult, but I'm willing to do it because I know it's one of the best exercises you can do to get a full body. From what I've read, people say this is probably the best full body compound lift that you can do. In other words, if you can only do one lift, that would be the one to do. And I like the overall feeling and the look that I get, and I'm talking about the way that I look, not the way people look at me, but the look that I have as a result of doing the deadlift on a consistent basis. That's delayed gratification. So even though I'm doing something, it's not so gratifying to do it. The gratification is in the result that comes from it. And when you know what the result is and you've experienced it before in the past, then the act of doing the thing, making the investment, actually starts to feel gratifying. So nowadays, since I've deadlifted for many years now and I know how it goes and I know the kind of results that I get, I actually enjoy doing it a lot more than I used to, simply because I know what's going to come as a result of doing it. Now, if you don't know, then it could feel like 100% delayed gratification. But when you know what the result is going to be, you're actually happy. You're happy to make the investment in hiring a coach or buying a book or paying to go to a conference or doing something, some kind of investment in yourself, when you know what kind of outcome you're going to get on the back end, even though right now you're not really gratifying yourself, but the feeling of doing it, knowing what's coming, is the gratification in itself, sometimes at least at the beginning point. So what we call delayed gratification, for those of you who are heavy into this concept of discipline, doesn't even feel like you're delaying anything. It actually feels good in the moment that you're doing it. But again, that's because of the anticipation of what's going to come. As they say, mind over matter. Let's get into our points. Number one, the topic once again is the value of delayed gratification. Number one, this concept of time perspective, which we talked about in episode number 777. That's 777. What I'll tell you about time perspective is that the more successful a person is, generally speaking, the further into the future they think about the effects, the long-term effects of their present actions. In other words, a very marginally successful person, or a person who is not very successful at all, every action they take, they're only basing that action off of, or they're basing the usefulness of that action, or the efficacy of that action, or why this action would be smart or not. They're basing it on what is the immediate result of me taking this action. Those are what unsuccessful people do. Everything they do, they need an immediate gratification for doing it, and if they cannot see an immediate gratification, then they will not take the action. This is the person who's not going to get up early to go to the gym and work out. They're like, well, why get up early? I can go to the gym later. Then they end up not doing it at all. Right? A successful person, a more successful person is, they think further into the future. So while the unsuccessful person only thinks about the here and now, what do I get right now for taking this action right now? The more successful individual says, all right, I'll take this action right now, even though I might not get the payoff until tomorrow. Even though I might not see results till a month from now, even though I may not get the ultimate payback for doing all these things until 5 or 10 years from now, but I'm willing to make that investment today because my time perspective is thinking way far into the future. Successful people, ladies and gentlemen, think far into the future, they think far into the future when considering their actions in the present. Unsuccessful people only think about the present when taking their actions in the present. So unsuccessful people, from moment to moment, it almost seems like they almost seem and feel smart. You ever known an unsuccessful person who's making a decision that's only based on the current moment, and they actually feel really proud of what they're doing because they're getting an immediate gratification for the thing that they're doing. They're looking at you like you're putting all that time in doing all those things for something that you might get in the future. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. What if you don't make it to the NBA? What if you don't get that college degree? What if your business never pops off? What if you never become this person that you're working on becoming some 10, 20 years down the road? Why are you doing that? You're an idiot. You might as well get some benefit from it right now. I mean, here and now is the only thing that we got anyway, right? That's what the unsuccessful person says. That's how the unsuccessful person thinks. And this is why the unsuccessful person can only live from moment to moment. The thing is, successful people think about the future, and that's why successful people, when we get to that future, whatever that future happens to be, all right, their success is already paid for up front. They already have a reservation at the table, whereas the unsuccessful person is standing outside the restaurant wondering why their name is not on the list, if you understand the metaphor that I'm making here. There's an old fable about the ant and the grasshopper that you may know. As the story goes, it was in the summertime. The ant and the grasshopper were both outside in the sun. It's warm weather. It's beautiful. I mean, everybody knows what summertime is like, right? And the ant, in the middle of the summer, was toiling away. The ant was working really, really hard and preparing and just doing all this stuff to prepare for the future. And the grasshopper, the ant's friend, saw what the ant was doing and said, my friend, Mr. Ant, why are you doing all this hard work? I mean, it's summertime right now. Why don't you lay out in the sun, enjoy the sun, take some time off from working, enjoy life. I mean, sometimes you gotta stop doing what you're doing and smell the roses. Enjoy what we have right now. And the ant said, I understand your perspective. Hear what I'm saying here? I understand your perspective, Mr. Grasshopper, but I gotta get ready for the fall and for the winter. In the wintertime, we won't be able to work outside like this. Food will not be as plentiful. It will not be as easy to find in the winter. I'm doing all the work now, so in the winter, when there is no food to find, we'll be all right. Me and my family and myself will all be good. We'll have food. We'll be taken care of through the long, cold, bitter winter. The grasshopper said, oh man, you're always thinking about work. You're always talking about making these investments and talking about the future and long term, man. Why don't you just enjoy right now? You're not enjoying life. You just got to relax. And Mr. Ant said, well, hey, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. The grasshopper said, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. They both parted ways. Then the winter came. And when the winter came, Mr. Ant's proclamation came true. His prediction came true. It was cold. It was bitter. Food was hard to find. But Mr. Ant, he had did his work in the summertime, so he had plenty of food stored away. He was already prepared for the winter, so he could stay inside, nice and warm inside of his place of being during the winter and have food and be fine. He would survive the winter. He had plenty for himself and for those he was taking care of. Mr. Grasshopper, on the other hand, having not done any work in the summertime, now he was in a precarious position. He had not done the work ahead of time. He did not have any food stored up. And now, looking around for food, he realized that what Mr. Ant had told him was true. Food was very hard to find. Food was very hard to come by, and Mr. Grasshopper was starving. He was just about to starve to death as he dragged himself to the front door of Mr. Ant's house and said, hey, I'm sorry, Mr. Ant, you were right. I didn't do the work in the summertime, and I am just famished. I can't find any food. Can you please help me? And Mr. Ant, being a gracious enough individual, not being as vindictive as some of us can be at different times, not being so egotistical, Mr. Ant says, sure, Mr. Grasshopper, I'll help you out. Let Mr. Grasshopper stay in his home and fed him and took care of him because Mr. Ant's such a nice, great, gracious individual. The whole point being, some people in life, people who do not reach success in the long term in life, they're like the grasshopper. They enjoy the moment as the moment is happening, but they never think about, what about the next moment? What about the future? What about when the sun stops shining? Or what about when it's not sunny and warm outside every day and it's a bitter cold winter? Am I prepared for that? Am I ready for that? Am I ready for the tide to go back out? Am I going to have a bathing suit on, or is it going to be revealed that I've been swimming naked the entire time? This is what time perspective is about. Long-term investments that pay back later are required for delayed gratification, or if we reverse that, delayed gratification requires long-term investments that pay back later. Unsuccessful people only think about instant gratification. What do I get today? They can't see past their noses, as we say. And they can only understand what's happening right now. They can't understand what's going to happen later. Their minds, for whatever reason, just don't allow them to project into the future. They have these very short time perspectives, and when anything comes up that could pay off in the future, they don't even notice it, let alone do they take advantage of it. Many people are getting worse these days at delayed gratification simply because of the instantaneous nature of the things that we get and do. Starting with how we use the internet, the way that we communicate with each other, the way that we don't really give people the chance to even express their thoughts before we cut them off or shut them down or want to cancel them or just not listen to anything they had to say simply because maybe they have an opinion that we don't like, or they represent something that we don't agree with, or they support somebody that we just decided that anyone who supports them must be wrong in any way, shape, or form. This is instant gratification. When you do that, when you say, all right, anyone who thinks this way, I'm not listening to them, I'm not paying attention to them, I can't be friends with them, I don't want to have a conversation with them, I don't want to hear anything that person says, I'm going to slap these labels on this person because I'm just automatically doing that without listening or thinking or at all. That is instant gratification. So if you find yourself doing that, you are acting with a very short time perspective. All right, this is a habit of unsuccessful people. So if you're doing that, you need to check yourself. Delayed gratification can be represented in, and if you're really paying attention to what I'm saying here, understand that it's not just about making some kind of money investment or working hard and getting a result later. It's also in the way that you think. It's in the way that you live on a day-to-day basis. Delayed gratification can be coming into contact with a person who may have a perspective or an idea or a belief that goes completely against one of your perspectives, ideas, or beliefs, yet you still giving that person the respect and giving them the time of day to talk about how they feel, why they feel that way, how they came about being the person that they are and looking at things the way they look at them, and keeping your mind open to the possibility that maybe they see some things that you don't see. Maybe they have some ideas that that have never really occurred to you. Maybe there are many things on which you two are on the exact same page and you can agree to disagree on different things, yet you are not going to label that person or shut them down or mentally cancel them or just say, I can't deal with this person at all in any way, shape, or form simply because I disagree with something that they happen to believe or I disagree with something that that person represents. This is delayed gratification. being willing to hear another person out, even though you already show up to the conversation knowing that you don't agree with that person on something that matters a lot to you or to that person or to both of you. I talked about this in episode number 1529, how to talk with people with whom, how to talk to people with whom you disagree. And also a couple days earlier, 1527, how to disagree respectfully when you don't agree with another person. In episode number 1098, why you need to converse with people that you disagree with. And we just talked a couple days ago about being disagreeable, which is a different subject. But the whole point here, and when we talk about delayed gratification, is you being able to have that time perspective of, let me invest a little bit more time into what I'm doing here, simply because it can lead to a better outcome in the long run. Now, this requires you you got to be able to project out into the future. Making this time investment is going to produce what result in the long run? And this is something that you should be asking yourself consistently with any time investment that you're making, being that time is the most valuable resource that all of us own, and the only resource that you actually own if you really want to talk about that. And we talked about it many times. You can refer yourself to episode number 609. We talk about the 5 forms of investment. In life, oftentimes, especially these days when it comes to communication, we feel like that we have to show and prove everything as quickly as we can think about it or as quickly as we can comment on it. I mean, that's how the social media algorithms have programmed us. We see something, we got to comment now. See something, you got to say something now. You got to get your thoughts on paper, so to speak, right now for everybody to see. Just because it came up right now and it's going to disappear off your feed if you wait too long to say something. The most disciplined individuals, if you look at them, or maybe you are one, or if you want to become one, let me tell you what they do. They have the same impulses that undisciplined people have, but they learn to control them, i.e. delayed gratification, instead of being controlled by them, i.e. instant gratification. So the impulses that you have that cause you to chase instant gratification are the same impulses every other human being has. The only difference is when you are chasing instant gratification, you're allowing those impulses to control you. When you have the concept, when you understand the principle emotionally of delayed gratification, you are controlling the impulses. So it's one or the other. Look at yourself and you can answer. Point number 2. Today's topic is the value of delayed gratification. Look at delayed gratification not as depriving yourself, but base it on the opportunity cost of what you do or don't do. You see, delayed gratification is not always about not doing, like I said. Sometimes it's what you are doing that is the delayed gratification in itself. As the example that I used earlier, when you wake up early to go to the gym, what is the opportunity cost? The opportunity cost is you could wake up early and watch Netflix. The opportunity cost is you could stay in bed and get an extra hour of sleep. But the opportunity costs are the things that you could be doing other than the thing that you are doing. That's what opportunity cost means. Working out is hard work. And if you go to the gym consistently, and if you have a trainer or you take some kind of class, or any of you play a sport, working out is hard. Now, it can be fun, of course, because you know what the results are, especially once you start to know what the results are that come from it, you look forward to working out, but it's not always easy. Nobody always feels like being in the gym working out if you do it consistently, but we all know that the results come on the back end of it. The later reward is worth it for you, and that's why you're willing to make that sacrifice. You're willing to make that investment again. So putting something in right now, again, you could be given a ton of energy right now and it is still delayed gratification, because what you need to look at is the opportunity cost of what is everything else that I'm not doing because I'm doing this thing right here. So the delayed gratification of, if you go to the library on a Friday night and you're a college student, so you can study and you can be ready for the test that you're gonna have to take next week, and passing midterms and final exams in your class, you can get that degree. What's the opportunity cost of being in the library on a Friday night? Well, you could be at the bar, you could be on a date, you could be at the club, you could be home playing video games, you could be hanging out with your friends, you could be sitting around, doing a whole lot of nothing, but instead you have made the investment of going to the library to study. What's the opportunity cost? Everything else that you're not doing. That is delayed gratification, because all those other things may be gratifying to you. Going on a date and drinking beers and playing video games and hanging with your friends, those are gratifying things. So those are opportunity costs. You're willing to pay those costs in order to make the investment of getting the thing that you want right now. So you see how all this stuff interconnects. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is the value of delayed gratification. Here's the question I want you to ask yourself. You should write this down, put it on your wall, make it your phone home screen wallpaper. Will future you thank you or curse the current you for the decision that you're making today? Will future you thank current you, or will it curse the name of current you based on the decisions you're making today? Which version of you are you serving today? Look at the actions that you've taken so far today, or in the last 24 hours if you're listening to this in the beginning of the day. Have your actions been things that are going to pay you back with interest in the future, or are your actions things that are going to cost you in the future? Is future you going to send you a bill, or is future you going to send you a dividend check? That's a good way of putting it. Future you going to say, damn, you did so much for me 2 years ago. I'm glad you made those investments then. Look, here's your cut of the results that we produce. Or is future you going to say, damn it, all those instant gratifications that you chased 2 years ago, now I got to pay the bill for that. You know what? You need to take part in paying for this bill too. Here's the invoice. Which one is future you going to say to current you? It's a question for you to marinate on. This is not to say that you can't have things that you want right now. I mean, we all need to be instantly gratified at sometimes. I mean, if you have to go to the bathroom, you probably shouldn't delay gratification on doing that. If you want something to eat, you probably shouldn't most of the time. I mean, within reason, not delay gratification when it comes to something like that. So it's not to say that you can't have the things that you want now, but make sure you're not going after all the things you want now at the cost of your future, the cost of the success of future you. That's the key. Let's recap today's class, which is the value of delayed gratification defined as the process that the subject undergoes when the subject resists the temptation of an immediate reward and preference for a later reward. This is an essential element of the concept of discipline, the very first principle of the work on your game philosophy. Number one, this is the concept of the time perspective. We talked about this in episode 777. More successful people look further into the future. Short-term thinkers are unsuccessful people. Why? Because they're only chasing what they can get right now. They can't see past their noses. They're only focused on right now. And many of us get worse at this when we indulge in the instantaneous nature of the things that we can get so quickly and easily these days without making the long-term investment. The most disciplined people had the same impulses, but they control those impulses instead of allowing the impulses to control them. Point number two, look at delayed gratification, not as depriving yourself, because that's not really what it is. It's about the opportunity cost of what you do or do not do. Everything you choose to do, the opportunity cost is everything else that you are thusly not doing. Waking up early to go to the gym is an investment of time, effort, energy, attention, maybe even money, because you got to pay for the gym membership. But the opportunity cost is what? Your sleep. The opportunity cost is relaxation. All those things are effort, but the later reward is worth it, and that's why you're willing to do it. Point number three, is future you going to thank or curse current you based on the decisions you're making today and the results that you're going to have to deal with tomorrow? Which version of you are you serving with today's actions? Are you serving your current impulses for instant gratification, or are you making investments for delayed gratification to serve the future version of you? Is the future version of you going to send you a dividend check, or are they going to send you an invoice based on the actions that you are taking today? You think about that and work on your game. And oh yeah, you're ready to take future you, whoever that future you is going to be, and take your game to the next level in your business, taking the game that you have, making sure we get it out to the world so everybody can see it, and then you collecting the ROI on that game. In other words, getting paid for your game, making a business out of your game, taking the skills and talents that you have, putting them out to the world boldly and authentically so you can serve them and in turn serve yourself. Join us at Work on Your Game University by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all day.